Hey everyone. In this video, I'll review two very similar methods to easily and consistently trigger the escape sequence in Super Metroid, allowing you to beat the game much quicker than normal. In previous videos, I've demonstrated methods of triggering the escape that involve entering the room behind Mother Brain, which is how the escape is triggered in normal gameplay. But with these techniques, you can avoid that room altogether. And later on, I'll show you how you can thoroughly confuse the game using these methods. If you've watched speedruns of the any % glitched category, chances are you've seen this method of triggering the escape, which involves using the X-ray scope while out of bounds to manipulate the game's memory, as seen here. Unfortunately, this method requires getting stuck indoors, X-ray climbing, and some tricky out-of-bounds navigation that requires practice. If you want to learn how to do this yourself, there are great tutorials out there by Shiny Zenny and Total, and I provided the links in my video description. For this video, though, I'll go over much simpler methods of triggering the escape using the Spacetime Beam. So to begin, ensure that you have all the necessary beams: Charge, Ice, Spazer, and Plasma. It's worth noting that there are many possible ways to trigger the escape with Spacetime Beam. These are just my two favorites, and as of now, they're the methods you're most likely to see used in speedruns. For the first method, which works on console and mini emulators, head to the Criteria Key Hunter room, which is 2 rooms to the right of Samus's ship. Kill both of the Key Hunters to be safe. Then find this downward projection from the ceiling, and align Samus with the left side of it, as seen here. Tap left to turn around. Now equip the Spacetime Beam. If you're unsure how to do this, check out my video description. Press and hold the shoot button to begin charging the beam. While continuing to hold shoot, pause the game. Unequip every beam except for charge. Continue holding shoot and unpause the game. Now hold the angle up button, which is typically R, and release the shot. Samus should fall through the floor and pass through the room a couple more times before taking damage and being knocked back into a transition block. You'll automatically transition into this tube, and it'll look like you're stuck in the floor, but just press the jump button to free yourself. Now, if you head left, you'll see that the escape has been triggered. You can just enter your ship to finish the game. If you're playing the PAL version of the game rather than NTSC, see my video description because you'll need to do something slightly different to hit the transition block. Or you can just use the method I'm about to describe. This second method is what you should use if you're playing on a virtual console, because for whatever reason the first method doesn't actually trigger the escape on virtual console. Conveniently, the second method also works on other platforms. Head to the same room and position yourself here, just to the left of the edge of the second step. The positioning for this is pretty lenient. Then perform the same steps that I described for the first method. The difference here is that after you release the shoot button, while aiming up and to the left, you need to wait about a half of a second, and then press and hold right on the D-pad. Samus will begin falling down and to the right, and eventually hit a transition block that will place her in the connector tube again. When she hits the transition, you should barely be able to see her at the top left of the screen. Fortunately, if you're slightly off on your timing when it comes to starting to hold right, you can correct it. If you started holding right too early, you'll see Samus in the top left of the screen, and you can just head left to hit the transition. If you started holding right too late, Samus won't appear on the screen, but you can just jump towards the right to hit the transition. I put a link in my video description if you need some help with the timing here. Once you hit the transition, just as before, you can head to Samus's ship to finish the game. A fun application of this is to use it, along with the Golden Chorizo code, to beat the game extremely quickly. In fact, this is the basis of the any % GT code speedrunning category. After executing the GT code as quickly as possible, you can then use some other space-time shenanigans, as I did here, to escape Golden Chorizo's room without defeating him, and then transport yourself directly from the screw attack room to the out-of-bounds area of the landing site, where Samus's ship is. From there, you can navigate back inbounds, trigger the escape using Spacetime, and finish the game. The current world record for any % GT code is held by Zost, who beat the game in 14 minutes and 51 seconds, real time, or 8 minutes of in-game time. Check out my video description if you want to watch the run. It's awesome. If you're anything like me, you may be curious what other effects this Spacetime activation has, besides triggering the escape. For the most part, it's similar to a traditional Spacetime reset. For example, all the items and doors are reset. But there are some notable differences. All bosses and mini-bosses are alive again as normal, with the exception of Fantoon. Also, you can't fight Bomb Terizo because the escape was triggered, and so the animals are in his room. Some minor differences you'll notice include the following. The glass tube in Meridia is broken. The lower Norfair Chozo statue's acid is lowered, and Shaktul's sand is already cleared. Finally, if you head to the Turian entrance, you'll find that the statues are sunken, even though 3 of the 4 major bosses are still alive. Because Fantoon is dead, you'll see his statue stone be destroyed, even though his actual statue is sunken. If you head down, you'll see that Kraid's statue stone is already destroyed, even though he's still alive. A lot, but not all, of this weirdness can be attributed to this memory address, whose value was altered by the Spacetime Beam. This is also the address responsible for triggering the escape in the first place. Lastly, it's kind of fun to trigger the escape with Spacetime and then save and reset the game. As with a traditional Spacetime reset, you'll rewatch the intro, go back to Ceres Station, and lose your regular missiles. But when you arrive back on the planet, it will still be exploding. After Samus exits her ship, you can reset the game again, and you'll now have a save file that starts with Samus on her ship while the planet is exploding. All you have to do is press down on the D-pad, and the game is over. Something very odd happens if you instead load the save file and use the escape technique, as I covered in my first video about exploring the planet with Hyper Beam. When you enter the Crateria Key Hunter room, you'll notice that the music that's playing is actually the title screen theme. I'm not sure why this happens, but it's pretty funny. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have fun triggering the escape with Spacetime.